Welcome to Packers the Podcast. We're going to do a quick video today on the early review for the Carolina Panthers. So we're just going to do a quick intro and get right into it. What are you thinking about how they've performed so far?
Sub-average at best.
Yeah, I don't think you can be happy quite yet. I mean, it's still early. It's only 2 weeks in. They're 0-2, but you have to give time, I think, in general, to a new quarterback in a new system.
That's true.
And you have the pieces together. You just have to take that next step.
The ingredients are in the mixing bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's just whether they can blend it into that luscious cake
Yeah.
that we, I think, know the Carolina Panthers will be eventually.
Yeah. I mean, so let's go through week by week. What do you think about how they performed against the Browns? Let's start with week 1.
Well, I would say week 1 and week 2 are actually very similar in a lot of ways. They are both games kind of marred by early offensive struggles that eventually there's pockets of rhythm that come in where the Panthers actually had very promising appearances, like they would be able to close the game. Both games have been lost on a final drive field goal of over 50 yards. I believe one was 55, one was 50. You're going to have those kickers in the NFL that can nail those sometimes, but a lot of times 55 yards, a lot of kickers will. It's not a gimme. Mm-hmm. And so that's sometimes just the way that the cookie crumbles. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that is, I guess, a failure too, that you would even be in that situation where you don't have control in the final drive and you're relying on mistakes offensively. Offensive mistake-wise, I think the Panthers have made a little bit of improvement week to week, but they have a clear problem with fumbles. Yes. So I believe week 1 against the Browns, and admittedly, both the Browns and the Giants have some very good defensive players.
Yes.
But they can't have the number of fumbles that the Panthers were putting up. They weren't all lost. I think there was like 5 fumbles against the Browns in week 1. Maybe only 1 was lost. And then 3 against the Giants. Again, 2 were lost. So, again, 1 fumble and an interception against the Browns. You've got 2 turnovers. But Baker Mayfield alone had 4 fumbles against the Browns that first week. Now, admittedly, none of them were lost. They were all recovered. But it begs the question, which is a question that has been coming up a lot, I think, season to season with Sam Darnold last year, and then Kyle Allen.
I was about to say
the year before.
He had a lot of fumbles. I remember that.
A lot of fumbles. You have to wonder a little bit. 3 different quarterbacks all suddenly, especially Baker Mayfield, coming from the Browns. I mean, he had turnovers and interceptions and all that, and fortunately he's only had 1.
Yeah.
But to begin fumbling in that magnitude, it was only 1 again, and it was recovered in the second game, but that's 5 fumbles in 2 games. And it's a question of what is going on. Is there miscommunication on the snap? Is there issues with handoffs? Are they not practicing? Yeah. That kind of stuff.
And that's the thing, right? You have the new quarterback coming in, and you hope it's just growing pains, right? You hope it's just because the year is long. Mm-hmm. The year's long. There's an extra playoff spot. You have the opportunity to come back and perform well and get back into the groove of things, but it's just like you said. It's disappointing on how you guys lost because you really could be 2-0 pretty easily, obviously.
Right.
So it is disappointing to look at the record and say you guys have been in both games and to still be 0-2. It is disheartening, and you just hope that the Panthers don't look at the situation and say, we're done, and start turning it around and just kind of packing it in for the season.
And there's some positive developments. I mean, seeing Robbie Anderson get over 100 yards in the first game was a great thing. Robbie Anderson had the distinction of being the least efficient quarterback, I think, in the NFL last year.
Wide receiver?
Or wide receiver,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, wide receiver. He was just terrible. Just on the field, but might as well have been off. I mean, he just didn't catch anything.
Yeah, but he's a good wide receiver.
He is a good wide receiver.
He's a good wide receiver. And that's the thing is you guys have the weapons. You
Yes.
really do.
Yes.
You have the weapons and a decent quarterback. I really believe that this is just the start, and it's just needing to get over that first hurdle of, okay, we can win a game.
Yes.
Because once you guys win that game, you'll do better. Who are they playing next week? Do you know off the top of your head, or this week?
The Saints.
The Saints.
And that should be a winnable game.
That should be a winnable game.
But I think one of the hard things to take away as a fan, but then it also must be a little bit difficult for them. I mean, clearly there were a lot of mistakes made in the first couple of games. The turnovers were bad. They don't have the offensive rhythm yet. But it's difficult to know how should they be performing against these teams. So when you see that the Panthers have lost to the Browns with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback, it's difficult to know whether the Browns with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback is a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Are they a top half team or not? They're playing the Steelers
as we
right
speak.
now.
And they're playing decent at least.
They've been
decent.
They've been decent, but it's too early to tell if that's a really bad loss.
That's the thing is both the teams that you guys played with the Browns and the Giants are very easily winnable games, and they should have been. Right? You look at it and you look at the teams in general, and the Browns with Deshaun Watson might have been a different story, but the Browns with Jacoby Brissett, it should have been a win. I know you're disappointed in that. And then of course week 2, obviously the Giants are 2-0.
Right.
Obviously after the first 2 weeks, but still, like you said, needed to be a win.
Needed to be a win. Hard to know. Do the Giants have a good offense or a growing offense? The positive I would say is that at least both of these games were games the entire time. There was no blowout. There was no just moment of crumbling.
Yeah.
In fact, the crumble always came closer to the beginning, and then they would almost make it back and couldn't close it out. But as a positive, I mean, Saquon Barkley ran for 100-something yards that first week. Second week, the Panthers managed
were able to
shut
stifle
him down
a little bit,
And so I think that at least gives a little bit of hope that if the offense can pull it together, and really all they need is a system. Christian McCaffrey is healthy. They've been working Chuba Hubbard into the rotation, which I think is good.
Yeah.
Put him in for some of these unnecessary downs, like just your first run of the down kind of thing. See what you can get him to do, because he's a decent running back himself. Don't abuse Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
You've got Robbie Anderson back in the offense, actually mattering. Plus, a couple other.
Yeah, and the
Very
thing is with me, for at least the Panthers, is you guys really, with the offense you have, cannot be putting, was it 16 points, or what was it against you guys got against the Giants?
Yeah, 16.
It was like 16.
16.
Yeah. So you can't be putting up 16 points with the offense you have.
Yeah, I think
against
Baker
the Giants.
Mayfield threw for like maybe 150 yards.
Especially with Christian McCaffrey.
No
and
excuse for it.
Like, there's no excuse to
He
go
needs
16
to be
points.
airing it out downfield.
You need at least, I have to say, at least 24 points.
Maybe
not every week, but against the Giants.
But is that true? The Giants, they're 2-0 right now.
I understand that they're 2-0.
But I think they're being held up by their defense. Probably.
But I'll also say, you hold Saquon to under 100 yards, you should win that game. Yeah. Like, even no matter what we discuss.
Where's
like,
the rest of the offense coming from? They only got 19 yards.
They got Daniel Jones as their quarterback. And so that's what I'm saying. Like,
maybe
like
they're
I understand.
turning the page,
but come on, you can't. Saquon, I get it, goes off week 1, wins, makes sense. They did well, and I'm pretty sure they beat the Titans. Was week 1.
Yeah.
So went off on the Titans. I get it, and the Panthers held them in check.
Yeah.
That's when you got to win the game.
And that, I think, is what they're looking for. It's a shame that the breaks didn't end up coming their way.
Of course.
Long field goals kind of put them away. But they need to be in a position where they're not eking out a win. Because even if they had won by 1 or 2 points, that's not much of a win either. I know that looks like a win. I mean, it is a win. It is good for the season and if you're trying to make playoffs. But what the team needs right now is that electric shock where they go, we are an offense.
And
we
that's
can
the
play
thing.
in rhythm. The talent, I think, is there.
Yeah, it has to be. And I think that's what I'm saying. Like, you look at the Saints, again, it's one of those teams where I feel like you guys can really perform well against the Saints.
We have to put up numbers.
And have to put up numbers. Like, that's just what it boils down to. I don't know if your defense is all that good. It's solid, but I don't know if it's, like, elite or even close to elite.
I would not say elite.
But your offense has the weapons, like, like Baker Mayfield, again, maybe an up-and-down quarterback, but really is, like, when he's up, he's a great quarterback. Like,
he just needs that confidence.
He needs that confidence, and once that happens, you guys should, take that next step, especially with the offense you have. Like, it's lacking, and it has to be that next step. And I think if you guys can use this week against the Saints to push, I think it'll just the ball will start rolling, and you guys can really do well this year.
Yeah, I think now that we have a conference game, it would, especially a winnable conference game, and maybe we just have to wait for the Falcons. We can't lose to the Falcons.
Falcons are 1-1 as well.
Yeah.
Or no, they're 0-2. They're 0-2.
Yeah.
Never mind. You need it. Yeah, you need to win both games against the Falcons.
But we have a weak conference right now. I would say we have certainly more talent than the Saints do.
Yeah, so you guys, obviously, in your division is going to be the 4 teams, and obviously the Buccaneers are most likely going to win that division, even though hopefully, we'll get into this later, but hopefully the Packers can win this week against the Buccaneers, so they go to 2-1, and you guys are 1-2.
Hopefully.
So you guys will be a game behind or whatever, but, I mean, really, with how many injuries the Buccaneers have and everything, and Tom Brady's not playing super well. I think you guys really have. Again, it's really early, and we still don't know fully about what either team really are at this point. But really, you guys have a good chance, maybe not being the number 1 team, but at least being number 2. You guys have to be number 2 with all your talent.
Right. I guess it comes down to a opinion on who's the better quarterback, Baker Mayfield or Jameis Winston. I think Baker has more accolades to his name.
Baker's more accolades.
He's been more consistent.
I feel like you're talking about almost the same quarterback, though.
Their problem is both turnovers.
Yeah, I think Jameis Winston can really pour it out. Yeah, can really air it out compared to Baker Mayfield. I feel like is more dumped down type of guy. I mean, again, I believe that. I don't know. Baker Mayfield's lows are low, though.
Yeah, so are Winston's.
So are Winston's. I don't know. I guess, like I said, I think they're pretty much even. I mean, you probably have a different...
The Panthers have more weapons. That's
I'd say
advantage.
so.
I mean, Michael Thomas has come back.
Michael Thomas,
well.
Chris Olave. Chris Olave is their rookie. I mean, he's getting into it. I mean, again, the Saints aren't a terrible team.
No.
I mean,
their defense is better than ours.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it'll be very interesting to see how you guys rank at the end of the year. But I mean, every year I feel like it's always like, okay, they'll be good, and then they disappoint. Just like this already.
It's been a little disappointing.
You look at it and say, okay, you look at it and be like, okay, they have a good team, but they're not.
Start
taking
of the
that
season,
step.
I mean. You're hoping to put the Giants in as a W, right?
You should be looking at the season and thinking, okay, at worst 1-1. Especially at the beginning of the year, you should say, okay, at least 1-1, if not 2-0.
Right, against the Browns.
Against the Browns that have Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback.
Yep.
You should be 2-0 at this point.
Right. And that's so disappointing, of course. But I mean, the pieces we know, all the pieces are there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
They've
definitely.
got the recipe that could make a good offense, but they need to pick it up because, unfortunately, I'm looking at the schedule.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
they
look
play
a
the
little bit
Saints.
further. Okay.
But right after that, they have a tough stretch. They play the Cardinals, then the 49ers.
49ers haven't played that well.
Then the Rams.
Haven't played that well.
But both of those teams
are better than the Panthers.
And better defenses than the Panthers.
Yeah.
That's the big thing is our offense needs to be clicking before we hit a defense
and
like
that's the worrisome, right? You guys, I could easily see you guys being 1-4, 0-5 even against the Saints. Like as sad as it is, as good as you guys can be, I just know that the Panthers are just always a little behind for some reason.
And that's the thing is our defense, I think, showed well, but again, against offenses, though Nick Chubb, I guess, is really good. So
very good.
They're showing some tenacity that they can hold teams to under 20 points, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, like that's possible.
Well, was it 31 against the? What was it against the Browns?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
Because I know they were very close against the Browns, but obviously both games. But I think the Browns were a little higher scoring. I know that the
it was 26-24.
26-24. Okay.
And then 19-16.
Yeah. So I mean, but still, 26 points again is beatable. Like with your offense, you guys.
But we need to know going in, like the defense has shown they can be solid, but they're not going to strap the offense. They're not going to be like the Steelers, where you can almost ride the defense to a playoff berth like they did last year.
And again, as sad as it is, I think as much as you probably don't want to hear this, but these two losses are bad. Like they're not
Well,
like,
okay. It's admittedly though, we will see how bad they are. The Giants are one of the only undefeated teams right now.
I mean, but this is true. This is true. But then again, like you're looking at just look at the quarterbacks for both teams at this point. You have Jacoby Brissett, which is a solid backup quarterback, and then you have Daniel Jones that has yet to really show anything. Yeah. So it's like it's really a bummer, especially like you said with these games coming up. And again, this year has been crazy with this start, with all these different games and everything. And of course, it's still week 2, and there's a lot of season left. But it is very interesting to see that the Panthers, you would really hope, especially with the two teams they played right off the bat, you would hope at least one win.
You would hope really the win against the Giants. I mean, the Browns are a solid team.
But they're a solid team, but they have Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. And if they held, I mean,
think about Jacoby Brissett when he was back up for Tom Brady, right? Wasn't he at the Patriots?
But it's
the
also
Patriots
against Tom Brady. It was against it was the Patriots versus the Browns, like two different coaches.
The Browns though have more talent almost than the Patriots did at that time. Just worse coaching.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a big thing. I'm not saying Jacoby Brissett's a terrible quarterback. Like I said, I think he's a good quarterback, but he's not. He's not good enough to be a starting quarterback. Like, he's always been a backup.
But
there's a lot of backups.
You can have teams that do well with an average quarterback. And so I guess we don't yet know how bad these losses are.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Of course.
So, for instance, can we say that beating the Bengals this far in the season is a good win?
True. No.
Should be.
Should be. 0-2 says beg to differ.
Same thing with the Titans. Used to be last year. Beating the Titans was a solid win.
Titans. Titans
are looking like they're in free fall, though.
But they did play the Bills, and the Bills are just crushing everybody at this point. Just are above and beyond. But they did also play the Giants, so it's a very interesting situation.
Is that a good win by the Giants, or
it's
a bad loss?
But is it also the fact of only being week 1 because they lost to the Giants week 1?
Yeah.
Is it just cobwebs or something like that. I mean, it's a
tough to know.
We'll see.
And that's the same question for the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks in, there's offensive problems. They need to get them fixed because the offense has to be what's winning games, has to be what's carrying them to victory. The defense can stand up. They're not just letting points get poured on, but the defense is not going to probably be that clutch factor. And so Baker Mayfield or Christian McCaffrey need to be. And so far, that just hasn't happened.
Yeah, but we'll touch back base a couple weeks. If more information comes out, if anything happens, we'll definitely touch base and talk about this more. Any last thoughts on this?
No, I think that's it. It's just a wait and see.
Wait and see. All right. Speaking of wait and see, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.